Good evening and welcome everybody to our October 1st slideshow of the season. It's the NRHS Wisconsin Chapter online slideshow, and we appreciate you all being here. We're going to have an interesting program tonight. Got three presenters. First up will be Rob Pfeiffer, who will be showing us some photos of his honeymoon. Well, you know, not those photos, but it involved a train trip. And so he's going to be documenting his 1997 trip to the West Coast. And then Steve Barry, editor of Railfan and Railroad, will be giving us an update on steam operations in the Northeastern United States. And then our third and ultimate program tonight will be Joe McMillan, who will be sharing us a presentation that he did at Summer Rail some years back on the car ferries of Lake Michigan, some photographs he took in the 1970s. So this is going to be a wonderful program, a wonderful evening tonight. Before we get started, let me tell you also about our next couple of events. Our next NRHS Wisconsin Chapter meeting takes place on the first Friday of just about every month. That happens to, in this case, that will be November the 4th in Fox Point, and that will feature Bill Christopher. Is that right? We have you right, Bill? Bill's in the room tonight, and Bill's going to be doing a program called the Western Pacific Boogie. He and three of his friends in the 1982, they drove out to the Western Pacific from Chicago. They drove out to shoot the WP before it got absorbed by Union Pacific. And they shot some stuff on the way out there and on the way back. It's really a fantastic program. That's our November 4th presentation. December 3rd, Al Baker will be back presenting a full-length program to us. Three different parts of Al's program. First part will cover some photos taken recently between La Crosse and Chicago on Canadian Pacific, former Milwaukee Road. The second part will delve into some of his recent work with a drone. So he is a fairly new drone photographer, and he's going to show off some of his skills with that. And third part will be a trip to Green Bay in 1982, kind of see what has changed since then. So that's in December. Also in December, December 20th, it's a Tuesday, we'll have another one of these online slideshows, and we have one presenter lined up already, and we can have up to 3 or 4 more. So if you are interested in presenting a short 15-minute slideshow to us in December 20th, please be in touch with me. It's president@nrhswis.org. Finally, I'd like to say a special welcome to all of our chapter members who are in attendance here tonight. Thank you for your support of the Wisconsin chapter. And then if you are not yet a member, you ought to be. You should be. It's easy to do. Just simply go to www.nrhswis.org and click on the join button and follow the prompts. Real simple to do. We are a chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. And at this point, I would like, he didn't expect this, but he's in the audience here. The president of the National Railway Historical Society, Tony White. Could you just unmute yourself and say hi? Congratulations on your recent election as president, Tony.
Thank you very much, Mike, and welcome, fellow chapter members of the Wisconsin chapter.
And that's all you have to say.
Few words.
Man, a few words. Excellent. We are happy that you're here tonight, Tony. So excellent. And so with that, I think we're going to get started. Does anybody have any other housekeeping things before we just delve right into it? Not hearing any. That's good. Okay. So once again, I'm going to just mute the people that I see who are not quite yet muted. And then I'm going to turn this over to Rob Pfeiffer. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm Wisconsin chapter welcome to Rob Pfeiffer.
Okay, thanks everybody. Hopefully I can get this to work. By the way, it's a common mistake. It's actually Pfeiffer, but that's okay. I've been called worse.
I'm sorry. I should have known.
No problem.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
I see. There's the photo of you guys embracing at sunset, or perhaps
Yes.
sunrise.
There you go.
A day that will live in infamy. My lovely wife, Dawn, and I, September 20th, 1997, when for some odd reason she agreed to marry me. So it was, as the title of the program implies, the start of something good, at least in my opinion. I'm not sure what she necessarily thinks, but so after that great event, we decided, well, you know, what can we do to extend the celebration? And we thought a nice honeymoon trip on the California Zephyr out to Northern California would be a nice way to start off our wedded bliss. So we headed down to Union Station in Milwaukee and jumped on this contraption. This is something from overseas. For some reason, I think it may have been borrowed from Israel or something. It was on the Hiawatha service for a little while, and then it wasn't. Apparently, the Amtrak must not have been too pleased because they never ordered any. Here's the interior. My lovely wife seated across from me. And as we got on the Zephyr and departed westbound through Illinois, we passed the station at Galesburg, and which is kind of a significant place because this is where Dawn and I got engaged in 1996. At Galesburg Railroad days, there was a telegraph demonstration going on. There were, you know, the guy on one end who was sending messages to the guy on the other end, and you could basically write a message and give it to them, and then they would telegraph it down to the other station. So Dawn went, you know, a few yards down to the other table, and I messaged her. I sent her a telegraph saying, "Hey, will you marry me?" And she responded, "Yes, of course I will," or something of that nature.
Are you free next September?
Yeah, she said, "Are you free next September?" So there we go. So anyway, got dark pretty quick after Galesburg. We woke up the next morning in Denver, and we began our climb of the Rocky Mountains. This is just west of Denver as we're heading up toward Moffett Tunnel. And just some spectacular scenery. I'll just kind of flip through these pretty quick here, but well worth the trip if anybody gets the opportunity. If you haven't already, I definitely recommend it. It was kind of a overcast, foggy, hazy weather as we're heading up toward Moffett. After we got through the tunnel, though, yeah, it got a little bit clearer, and you know, skies dried up a little bit. You know, fog was a little bit less. And continuing west through Colorado, see there's a little yard here. This may be that spot, what is it, that Cerro or Arrestad, where the line down to Pueblo meets the line that comes from Denver, I'm guessing. And just some Southern Pacific locomotives still in their paint with some coal cars transporting that commodity. Here's my dream house. I'm sure that guy has a really good view up there from that house up on the hill. And just continuing west through Colorado. Again, just really nice scenery. And we're kind of getting closer to Grand Junction at this point, kind of in the western part of Colorado. And yeah, there's the power on our train as we're stopping at Grand Junction. Back when Amtrak had what I think was their nicer paint scheme. And our car attendant, he tipped me off to the fact that there was a hobby shop about a block or so down from the depot. But he told me they were only stopping, I think, for about 15 minutes. So I quick had to, you know, run out of the train, go down, grab a couple of train magazines, pay for them, and get back on the train, or I'd be stranded. And luckily for me, I was able to do that with about 5 minutes to spare. And there's a view of the station at Grand Junction as we're passing. And just some more really nice scenery out in western Colorado. The next morning we woke up in Nevada, although it almost kind of looks like a scene from Mars, but there's the sun rising. I want to say this is maybe around Winnemucca. And yeah, just more of a desert landscape. Then we stopped in Sparks, Nevada. I believe there was a crew change. It was a longer stop. And I happened to see Union Pacific 8110 sitting around in the yard. What's significant about 8110? Well, to most people, really nothing, but I remembered I'd photographed the same unit about 6 months prior, right around Junction City, as shown here, heading up to Weston with a load of coal. Here's the depot at Sparks. My lovely wife posing in front of it. And yeah, the train was a little bit slow. We were delayed by several hours, and here's just a little poster that they had hanging in the depot, basically stating that they're doing track work, so don't be surprised if your train is delayed. There's our car attendant, the gentleman in the vest, and there's the reflection of the 8110 in the window of our car there. And continuing further west into California, we passed Donner Lake. We had some strange cravings when we were going through this area, but I'll try to put that out of my head. And Colfax, California had a neat little main street, had to get a picture of it. And there's our counterpart heading east as we're heading west. And then going through Roseville, California, several old Southern Pacific units. Probably most of these have been scrapped by now. Just sitting there in the yard. I mean, this looked like just a living museum. Well, we arrived later that day at Sacramento, which was our base of operations. And the next morning, we decided to get on one of these Amtrak California trains and head towards San Francisco. It actually takes you to Emeryville, and then from there you catch a bus to cross the bay. Along the way, there's some really neat scenery. Here's the mothball fleet, some old Navy ships that were stored out there in the bay. And my lovely wife at Pier 39 in San Francisco. We went to this island called Alcatraz. Kind of heard something about Alco, and I thought, yeah, it must be good, but no trains involved, but it was still kind of neat. The Golden Gate Bridge there out in kind of the left center of the photo through the haze. San Francisco skyline. And back at the station in Emeryville. This is basically their stop for San Francisco. And again, my lovely wife posing with the flowers at the depot. And what honeymoon wouldn't be complete without a trip on the Napa Valley wine train? So that was our next destination. Here's the building that they operate out of. And some vintage Alco, actually MLW FAs. I believe that's an old Milwaukee Road Superdome. And it definitely is the wine train. I mean, you're going through vineyards the whole time. So we had gotten off at Gurgitch Hills and took the quick tour. Those that weren't getting off the train, they enjoyed lunch on the train as it headed up the line a few more miles. And after our tour, we caught the train coming back. Just very beautiful equipment. And after a day on the wine train, I figured, well, we're so close, I got to head over to Shellville, where the Northwestern Pacific was operating out of at the time. So that was our next destination. If you want to ride the wine train, there's the number for reservations. But anyway, so yeah, the Northwestern Pacific was still operating out of Shellville at the time. I believe they might still be operating to some extent, but I don't know. I think at this time they might have still been going all the way to Eureka. I'm not really sure. Had a really nice SD9 and Black Widow paint sitting near the depot, and as well as another one that was just in the regular Southern Pacific paint of the time. And there they are together. And the next day we headed up to Portola to the Western Pacific Railroad Museum of the river, whatever it's called, I forget. And they had a really nice collection too, including a Centennial, a bunch of diesels, a handful of steam, an FM. And a unit that may well have operated the original California Zephyr when it was on the Western Pacific prior to Amtrak. Overall, just a real nice collection, very well kept. An old Milwaukee Road U-boat. This one I want to say is in Washington State now. I know it's not at Portola anymore. Somebody else had acquired it. Then on the way back to Sacramento, I happened to catch a freight at Yuba Pass, just right off the interstate. And the last railroad-related item that we had seen during that trip was the California State Railroad Museum at Sacramento. So kind of took the quick tour through there. Not huge, but nice collection, and again, very well kept. I believe this is the last Southern Pacific cab forward in existence. And a couple of F units parked outside. And thus our trip came to an end, at least our stay in Sacramento, as we got back on the eastbound Zephyr to head back home. So heading out of Sacramento, just passing some UP power. They had light rail at the time. I'm sure they still do. And going through Roseville Yard again with all of the old Southern Pacific units sitting there. Again, I'm sure these are mostly razor blades by now. And some Rio Grande thrown in. And it looks like we got a rotary out there, a couple of them actually. Yeah, just an incredible amount of power out there, just really interesting. There's the depot at Roseville. And there's the big hook. And again, heading back into the Rockies as we continue on east through California. Again, just great scenery the whole way. At Sparks, Nevada, a couple of more rotary plows sitting there on the siding. Somewhere in Utah, I want to say maybe Provo, I'm not really sure, but that little tower there in a nice yard. And more of just the spectacular scenery heading toward the Utah border. And this is a very remote place in Colorado. If you look at the highway sign, it actually says no name next exit. And our final morning on the train, waking up in Nebraska, looking at the Missouri River just south of Omaha. And then coming through Iowa, a nice depot at Creston still standing. Just a work crew. I forget what town this is. It's kind of in southeastern Iowa. Just doing some track work there, and an old Santa Fe Jeep sitting nearby. And coming into Burlington, looks like the remains of an old Rock Island freight depot, possibly. Old Burlington steamer on display just before you get to the bridge. And then crossing the Mississippi into Illinois. The connection at Cameron, just outside of Galesburg. And coming into the Galesburg yard, just some power sitting around. And Manufacturers Junction Railway, I believe this is Cicero, possibly. And turning back the clock to 2007, for our 10th anniversary, we wanted to redo the Zephyr trip, but we couldn't really swing the California Zephyr. So at the time, we had the opportunity to take the Minnesota Zephyr out of Stillwater. Sadly, 2008 was the last year they operated, but it was a nice operation to my wife's Aunt Betty and Uncle Don, who sadly passed away a few years ago. But yeah, we had a real nice trip on there. Got the dinner, the whole shebang. There's the view on one of the other cars. Just it was a really nice operation. Kind of a shame they didn't make it. And this year we didn't do a train trip, but we wanted to kind of relive the winery experience. So yeah, we celebrated our 25th earlier this year, going to Traverse City, Michigan area and enjoying the wines up there. So anyway, that concludes this program, and appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Well, that's Rob Pfeiffer, everybody. Pfeiffer. Rob Pfeiffer, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I haven't called worse.
A round of applause for Rob. Thank you for that, Rob. Anybody who wants to clap their hands on their Zoom or what have you, or and anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Pfeiffer? I guess I'm not hearing any. Excellent.
I have one. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
Yep.
Joe.
When he was coming through that canyon where he said that place had a name on the sign that said no name, that's Glenwood Canyon.
Oh,
Through
okay.
there. And no name is just an exit off of that canyon. It's really not a town or anything. And right up front in there on the trip west, you had pictures of two separated tracks, and you were wondering if one of them was another line coming from Denver or something like that. That was Tabernash. That's
Okay.
the main line and the siding are separated by quite a distance. So one picture you had from there looking across to another train, which was on the main track, and you probably were in the siding the way it looked. But that's
Okay.
That's Tabernash. It's the next station west of Fraser.
Okay, thank you.
That's where they used to turn the ski train. Ski train used to
gotcha.
unload at Winter Park, and then you'd go to Tabernash and turn on the Y, and then go back to Fraser and sit there all day until the skiers are ready to go home.
Okay, great. Appreciate it.
A
Thank
quick
you, Joe.
question for him. With the wine train, was that a Western Pacific spur, Southern Pacific? What was that originally?
That was the SP's branch to Napa.
Okay.
Yeah, they still operate. I'm not sure if they're using the FAs still. I think they might have. They might be using something else now, but and I think they converted the FAs to natural gas at one time or something. I thought.
Yeah. I think they're still using it with natural gas. I just want to know what the original heritage of the trackage was.
Yep, SP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Welcome.
All right. Appreciate your program tonight there, Rob. Thank you.